Now. It's Belinda Weaver here, and I'm about to do a Periscope all about my recent blog post on how to put a copywriting quote together. So hi Robbie, thanks for tuning in. So I'm just going to turn the camera around. Let's see how this works. And here I am. So I've got a bit of a new setup here. Thanks for joining in. So as I said, my name's Belinda Weaver. My business is Copyright Matters. Thanks very much for everyone joining in. Look, if you're new to Periscope, type in new. Type in new and let me know. Let me know where you are, because I'm actually in California at the moment, but I know I'm going to be talking to a lot of people in Australia and probably around the world. So as the little entry sign said in, I'm going to be doing these Periscopes every Friday at 1 p.m. Australian time. I'm a little late today because I was getting my hair done. But what I want to talk about today is actually what I talked about on the Copy Detective, my blog, very recently, and that's how to put a copywriting quote together. So I'm just going to, extreme close up there, get the blog in front of me so I can remind myself, because I actually get a lot of questions about this of, not only how do you present a quote to your clients, but how do you do the calculations? Is it hourly? Is it per project? Is it per word? And when you're just starting out, it can be really stressful. You get really excited because someone wants you to write their copy for you, but then they say, how much? And it can be a bit terrifying. What you don't want to do is reel off numbers without any thought process behind them. So what I wanted to do in this Periscope is talk through my process for putting together the numbers behind a copywriting quote. Now, if you can hear some noises around me, my pug Fenris is trying to get into my room, so you'll just have to excuse me. So yeah, if as I said, if you're new to Periscope, say hi, say new, let me know where you are. And oh, he's in. Otherwise, if you're liking what you're hearing, just give me some hearts, or if you're in the replay, maybe you even share it on Twitter. That would be awesome. So the first thing to probably run through when you're talking about a copywriting quote is whether you quote by the hour, by the word, or per project. So per word pricing is probably something done, I think, in the States more than anywhere else. And that's basically where you give someone a price per word, and at the end of the job, you tally up how many words you wrote, and that's how much the job costs. So that usually works if people have a very strict word count that they want to adhere to. Hang on just 1 minute. Live streaming, it's all going on. So yeah, per word quoting doesn't really happen a lot in Australia. As I said, I think it's usually in the US, and it really does turn your writing into a commodity. And I just don't think that's very good for your self-esteem, to be honest. Per hour is another copywriting quoting technique. And I think a lot of confident copywriters do this. Confident, experienced, and very, very busy copywriters do this. And this is where basically they'll give their client an hourly rate and an estimate of how long the job will take, but the client will get billed at the end for however long the job took. So if they say it takes 5 hours and it ended up taking 7 hours, the client gets billed for 7 hours. So that can work, but I've often found, more often than not, that clients just aren't happy to have this kind of open-ended quoting system. Fixed prices give everyone a lot more confidence. So that's the last type of quoting that you'll often find, and that's per project. That's what I always did. So that's basically where you put a quote together for the whole project. That covers the writing, the revisions, any meetings, proofreading, any other inclusions that you want to cover for your project. That project cost covers it all. And what it means is if you work faster than you estimate, then you end up with a bit more cash in your pocket. But if you end up working more hours than you quoted, then you kind of lose out. So it's ebbs and flows, swings and roundabouts with per project pricing. But the more experience you get, the more accurate it can be. And as I said, clients are usually a lot happier with fixed pricing. They can budget for it, they know how much they have to pay at the end, and they know what they're getting for their money. So I always recommend people do per project fixed pricing. Now, the next question I often get asked is about timekeeping. So you estimate, thanks for the hearts there, you estimate how long a job will take, but does the client track that time? Do they have to see some timesheets. Do you track that time? And basically, it's up to you as a copywriter to keep your own time tracking records. The client doesn't need to know how long it actually took you to do a job. But time tracking is really, really important. And some copywriters will say, I don't bother tracking my time, but I think you'll find they're really, really experienced copywriters. So they know. Thank you, Wellness Editor, for joining in. Most copywriters who don't track their time know that if they say a job's going to take them 5 hours, it will take them 5 hours or less. They don't take chances on their timing. So if you haven't got that kind of confidence about how long a job will take you, tracking how long you're working for is really, really critical. And it helps you build up a profile of how long different types of copywriting projects will take you. Now, there are loads of free time tracking tools available. The other benefit of tracking your time is something that I realized after a few years of being in business. My cash flow wasn't all that great. Toggle is my friend. I haven't actually used Toggle, but I know a lot of people who do use it. And you've got to find the tool that works for you. But loads of free ones. Thanks for letting everyone know your favorite. But yeah, my cash flow wasn't great. I was super busy all the time. I was working really, really hard, but I didn't seem to be very profitable. So I actually had a look at my timesheets of my time tracking, and I realized that I was spending way too much time on admin and, let's be honest, social media. So when you're doing your marketing, of course, there's this plateau, just trying to get my hands right there. There's this plateau where you stop getting rewards for the time you spent on your marketing. So I realized I was spending more time on marketing than I was getting rewards for, rewards being clients. So I was also spending too much time on admin. So what that told me with my time tracking was that I had to allocate designated times in the day and week to do admin like emails and not let it distract me when I should be doing billable work, and also pull back on the time I spent on social media. It's really easy to pretend you're marketing your business on social media, but what you're actually doing is you're procrastinating when you should be working. So when you track your time, you can get, it's exactly right. Thanks, Robbie. It's really important to find the balance between doing what you need to do in terms of accounts and admin and social media and all those kind of things, and actually doing billable work. So that's another great thing of tracking your time. But when you're putting a quote together, you need to have a good idea about how long you're going to spend on writing the website, writing the brochure, writing the ad. And it's only through tracking your time that you can really get a feel for how long things will take you. Now, when it comes to actually working out the maths of your quote, you've got to factor in your creative thinking, your brainstorming, your researching, the writing, the revision time, admin with the client, taking the brief, proofreading, all those kind of things. It's not just how long it takes you to physically write or type out a piece of copy. It's how long the whole project will take you. So what I used to do is generally estimate that 60% of the time I would spend on a project would be writing the first draft. Most of the effort went into the first draft. Then I would say 25% of that time would be spent on revisions and proofreading and those kind of fine-tuning and finessing parts of the project. And then the rest of the project time was on project admin, taking the brief, talking to clients, answering questions, emails, sending the accounts, sending the testimonial form, all those kind of things. They still take time. So that was 60% of the project time on writing the first draft, 25% of the time on revisions, and proofreading and stuff like getting the copy ready, and then the rest of the project on admin. So if you are starting to work out how long you will take to write something, you have to then take a percentage of that. Thank you very much for the hearts. I'm glad you find it useful. Yeah, it's something that I think can help you see a copywriting project as more than just the writing, because it is much more than just the writing. So that's a really nice formula, and you might think, oh, well, that's easy then. I know how long it's going to take me to write the first draft, and then I do all the percentages and away we go. But in actual fact, when you do that, you look at the final number and you're like, that's really expensive. I don't know if I can really ask the client to pay that much. And that's when you have to do a bit of massaging the numbers. You have to think about how realistically how long the job would take you, a measure of the effort and professional value that you're offering, because when it comes to pricing, it isn't just about how long you spend. It isn't just about an hourly rate times a percentage and all that kind of stuff. Pricing is really strongly linked to how much value you offer, what you are worth. So, sometimes a job might not take you very long at all, but you want to put a higher price on it because you want to make sure you express the value that you bring to your table. It's all your experience. It's not just typing words out, it's your experience, your analysis, your skill, your knowledge, all those kind of things go into your price. But if the price is really high, then you have to think about what is a reasonable price for people to pay. So then you have to think about your hard numbers. What is proofreading if you're outsourcing that cost? How long will it realistically take you to write? Where's your wiggle room? And, to be honest, sometimes putting a quote together is just a bit of, this seems like a reasonable price. Let's just see if it flies. Because at the end of the day, if everyone says yes to your quotes, your prices are probably too low. But if you keep spending more time than you're quoting, then your quoting figures aren't an accurate reflection of the time you're spending or the value you're offering. So, it's something that you develop and you work on the more experience you get putting copywriting quotes together. So, I know I've got a couple of people tuning in. Feel free to, thank you very much for the hearts, to share this on Twitter, actually. I think if you press the little man in the corner, you get a little pop-up and you can post it to Twitter. And people who are tuning in, we're right at the end of the chat now, which is cool because you can actually still watch a replay and people can still catch it. So, thank you very much, Wellness Editor, for sharing that on Twitter. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions about putting the quote together, ask me now. I'm right here, these kind of sessions. As I said, I'm going to be doing a live Periscope every Friday about lunchtime, about 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be talking about the blog post that I've published recently on alternate weeks, but then I'm also going to be talking about the business of being a copywriter. And this kind of thing is the perfect example of what I'm going to be talking about. So if you're a copywriter, I'll help you, give you a behind the scenes peek at how I've done things and hopefully maybe give you some shortcuts. So, I want questions. If you've got them, let me know. Otherwise, hopefully I'll see you next Friday. There's hearts, there's sharing. That's what Periscope's all about. But more often than not, it's just about having a chat. Loving your podcast with Kate Gold. We're having so much fun doing that podcast. You can probably tell if you stick to the end. We often leave some outtakes in, which is just basically us laughing and being idiots. But, we're getting a bit more practiced with the sound production and all that kind of guff. But we're having a lot of fun. I don't know if you caught the interview. Yeah, the outtakes are the best. They crack me up. We've just done an interview. We've published an interview with Darren Rouse, who was awesome. He's such a good guy, and he shouldn't be labelled sucking wind balls. Sorry, just see the message if you're watching this on the replay and you can't see it on our very first podcast, which is called Hot Copy Podcast, and I do it with Kate Toon. There was a little outtake at the end. You'll have to listen to the podcast to hear, but it was about Kate sucking on some weird balls, and I'm just going to leave that with you. As I said, you'll have to look at the first episode of the Hot Copy Podcast to find out what that's all about. It's not quite as rude as it sounds. So yes, live Periscopes with me every Friday lunchtime. Hopefully it's a time that you're starting to wind down from the afternoon. You can have a little sneaky tune in. So thank you for tuning in. I am going to get my dog out of this room. Don't know if you can hear that heavy breathing in the background. Love the hearts. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Have a great evening. If it's morning where you are, have a great morning. And I'll see you next Friday. Thanks very much. Now, double tap